we have breaking news on the Thomas Shaw leaks.
You find who's leaking to Shaw, you come home in garlands.
And if I don't?
Then learn to love Berlin.
Thanks so much for being here. You guys, congratulations on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hi, guys.
Now the show's phenomenal. I love it. I love the tone of it. I love the music as well, and I love that it's somewhat hard to follow, but it all pays off like a good CIA or spy drama does. Both of you have had successful times in television. You've been a part of really amazing TV shows. At this point, what is a pitch? What does a show have to get you involved? What did this have when they brought it to you?
I was hunting for something which felt contemporary and relevant. I've obviously worked in fantasy before with lots of makeup and prosthetics on The Hobbit, so I wanted something...
For you, it was no prosthetics,
no
guys.
prosthetics,
Let's go.
Full height, no beard. But yeah, I wanted it to be about now and what's coming next, and I feel like finding this script was a real gift because it's exactly that. It's about everything that we have in the news. We're chasing the news in the writing, and for me it was a very exciting prospect.
Sure.
Well, you look for so many different things, people you want to work with. It always begins with the writing, though, and the story was very interesting to me. It's also a subject that I cared so passionately about before the script even came my way, this idea of whistleblowers and intelligence and surveillance, and so there was all of that, but I think one of the most beautiful factors that cemented the deal for me was getting to live and work in Berlin, which is one of my absolute favorite cities on this planet.
What do you love about Berlin?
How long we got? It's just an absolutely extraordinary city. Visually, it's an extraordinary city. Historically, what that city has been through on so many, the hardships, and how they've come out on the other side with a real understanding of tolerance and peace and acceptance and patience. I feel like it's a city where a real lesson was learned, a real lesson about humanity, and that's a really beautiful place to wake up in every day. A place that understands what it means to be human and what it means to survive.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but like I said, I could go on forever. That's just that part of it. The architecture, the people, the green, it's too much. The art.
Now, as you said, the show kind of chases headlines, and you also said that you have been someone who's interested in whistleblowing and interested in sort of surveillance and the CIA and things that have been happening in the last couple of years. As actors that are sort of fascinated by that and are reading headlines yourselves and are intelligent, do you go in with ideas for a show like this, or do you just kind of hope that everything that comes out of the writer's room you also totally understand and relate to in the way that you've related to and been fascinated by the news as well?
Yeah, I feel like my job is to be a vessel for the writing, but at the same time to challenge the writing. And I felt myself tuning in a much more kind of intense way to what was actually happening in the news. And, I was already following Edward Snowden on Twitter, but I started researching him a bit more, looking into what Glenn Greenwald found. We had Bob Bayer as an advisor. So you just plug yourself in. And I found myself often we talked about this before, at 3 a.m. in the morning, kind of brainstorming our story, like not able to sleep, and then sort of thinking, I need to go to sleep now, otherwise I'm going to be on set at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning looking like crap. But realizing that actually that's what these guys go through. I don't think they get a good night's sleep ever. So I just let myself go down that road and think and try and feel like the character.
Sure.
Sorry, what was the question again? Again, I was so mesmerized by Richard's answer.
Well, you had said that you are someone that it's a subject for you that you've always been passionate about, or at least have been passionate about in the past few years as Snowden has come to light and CIA surveillance. So when you get on a show like this and the scripts are coming through, do you find yourself personally fact-checking them or sort of going over things with the writers at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a part of our job. But yes, for me, it was a real luxury to be able to sit in this world and explore it in a really immersive way, and to do it in a city that is known for being the city of spies is an extraordinary thing. But what I love about our show, both of us having done espionage dramas in the past, is this one feels very different because it's a different world. You know, that was a different time that we a much more innocent time that we did those other shows, and I love the fact that we really explore what this this information age is all about, and what it means to us as citizens, and what it means to have the truth. Are we expected to have the truth? Or is it not our right? These were all conversations that we had, and what we're hoping the audience will take away as well, and have these conversations. Hopefully it will spark debate and spark dialogue.
Well, we've moved into a completely different sort of realm of whistleblower, even in the last couple months, than we had in the last few years, in the way that whistleblowers and leaks are being sort of used in a completely different way, and the intention behind them isn't really being talked about in the same way that it was 4 years ago when WikiLeaks was founded, and it leaked stuff to expose truth to power, and then Snowden came out to expose the CIA. Now we have leaks that are coming out that may be because of the Russian government trying to impact our elections. Oh, go ahead.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I think it's interesting that the intention of the leaks may be different than it was a few years ago, even by some of the people who were the original leakers at times. It sort of exposes what hacking can become for these different branches of power, these different governments. Does the show sort of go into that? In the first 2 episodes, it's more about the operatives and how they're interacting with each other and communicating with each other, and the leaks within the system itself.
Yes, and I think we have to keep it on a smaller level because it is it's a smaller world that we're looking at on the show, but on our level, this is such an important conversation to be having, and you're right, it has changed, and the intentions have changed, but like with anything that we start using, it's going to grow into what it's going to grow into, and it's going to, like the internet, it'll be used for good occasionally, and it'll be used for bad occasionally. We have no control over that, but I think it's a really, really important part of our society to be able to pull back the veils that certain institutions or governments put over our information, and so that we can actually truly live in a democracy.
Talk about your character. One clap there. That was.
I just wanted to add actually to what you were saying, that actually it's sort of at the root of our drama, that the idea of where do we find the truth and what is the truth. When we started shooting this was a big subject. It's becoming ever more elusive, and I feel like the idea of equivocation has become the new normal. And where do people find their truth? They go to the internet. They look to places like WikiLeaks, or a particular whistleblower who is seemingly throwing off the cover and revealing the truth. But even the truth now is untrustworthy, which I think is sort of the spine of our story.
Talk to me about your character in the show.
I play a guy called Daniel Miller. We find him at the beginning of the story, operating out of Panama. He's identified a source of a leak in the form of a girl that is giving information to a German newspaper called the Berliner Zeitung. We think she's being operated by Thomas Shaw, who is the Edward Snowden figure. So he has single-handedly kind of identified that it's him, and so he's sent back to Berlin to basically root him out, to find the mole, and he's placed into the CIA station in Berlin, and everyone is really under investigation because they think it may be an internal matter. And it sort of unfolds from there.
And Michelle, your character is kind of at war a little bit with one of her sort of partners in the office, or her boss, who seems much more interested in his own sort of place in the operation, or not in the operation, but in the CIA itself, rather than actually protecting anything.
Yes, I really enjoy playing with that relationship, and obviously love working with Richard Jenkins. He is my superior. He has been at it a long time. He's a lifer. Valerie's on her way to being a lifer. There is a lot of friction between them. Valerie feels that his head just isn't in the game anymore. She has enormous respect for him, enormous respect for his career, for his tenure, for his decision making. But he's getting a little soft, it seems, and he has one foot out the door, and she senses that. And Valerie is very driven and not nefariously ambitious, but driven to do her job well. I would say, actually, her biggest competition, or the person she's most at odds with, is herself. She always wants to best herself. So she's not nefariously ambitious, but she is ambitious. And yeah, I like their relationship.
What was it like working with Richard Jenkins? I love Richard Jenkins.
Meh.
Love me some Jenkins.
He's gorgeous. He's gorgeous. He's, you know, obviously, he's Richard Jenkins. He's one of the greatest actors of our generation, but he's also deeply funny, and he's deeply warm, and he has the most gorgeous wife, and we were very lucky to spend time with him. And
The cast in this is incredible. I mean, Richard Jenkins, the two of you, and Rhys Ifans, who is also incredible in it. What was it like working with Rhys Ifans?
I like to call him Rhys Ifans. I think
Someone told me that beforehand, too.
it's just because he's Welsh. But yeah, he's probably, he's like the distillation of everything Welsh, Rhys. And he knows it and loves it. I mean, he is actually a natural comedian and a clown, so this is a real departure for him to play this character. Such a dark character. I mean, he has access to all of that dark stuff brilliantly, but most of the time, the flip side of working with him was that I spent more time trying not to laugh and hurting my stomach laughing at Rhys, and then the cameras would roll and he'd kind of switch it on. But a brilliant, brilliant person, and incredibly intelligent, very thorough, questioning everything, and really kind of the diligence with which he approached that role. I take my hat off to him. Huge respect.
What was it like shooting the show? Were you guys shooting this like episode by episode, or were you shooting this sort of like a large film like a lot of TV shows are doing these days?
we block shooted, didn't we? Sorry. Hello. We block shooted 2 episodes at a time. We'd have a director come on and do 2 episodes at a time. So those 2 episodes would be block shot. Yeah. Is that a term? So yeah, I think a lot of shows are being that's a pretty normal, common way to do it now.
Yeah, and it wasn't all written, which has its pros and cons. You know, the good thing about it is I think we came in with 2 episodes. The good thing about it is that it can kind of be like tailoring a suit to each character, and I really feel like they did that really well and allowed the personal relationships to inform how the characters were formed and the storylines were formed. But it was quite difficult to step forward into a place that was completely blind. You didn't know the destination. But again, something which can be quite useful, because these people are roaming around in the dark and they really don't have a clue of what it is that they're hunting down. So,
especially an espionage show, I would imagine as well, because there's constantly twists and turns for your characters, and if you don't really know exactly where they're going by episode 5, does it feel like were you constantly surprised by where your characters went via the script?
I've been in this trap before. I did a TV show called Spooks, and I was obsessed with knowing everything about the script and everything about everybody else's character. And I was like, if I didn't know it, I'd get really frustrated and angry. And actually, I just released myself from that this time and thought, I stopped looking at the things that I shouldn't know and the bits that my character doesn't know and the things that he was about to discover. I just stopped asking the question and let it happen to him, which was a bit frightening, but also really exciting.
Liberating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's so interesting. That's a bigger question about how often does plot inform your role as the actor versus how much does just the moment and the scene itself inform what you're doing as the actor?
I think it's both. I really do. I hope that I'm one of those actors who just sort of, give it to me and let's go. And yeah, I like being in the moment. Kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I like to be like incredibly prepared to be totally unprepared for something. So it's like you have to brace yourself with all of the armor that you can in terms of the work that you do and the research that you do, and then totally step into the unknown and not know what's coming at you. That's the most exciting place to be.
Absolutely. Let's open it up to the audience for some questions. Who has questions out there?
Hello. It takes work with determination and a little bit of hope to have a life as an actor. And I wanted to ask, after all you've experienced from the beginning of your careers to now with Berlin Station, what does this life as an actor mean to you? Like, what does it do for you?
I don't know why I feel like crying immediately.
Sorry?
I know, I made Ricky cry, everybody. I have to say that a part of our job is to complain. That just comes, it's under like the special skills thing. But the truth of the matter is I am gonna go, actually. This career has given me an extraordinary life where I've traveled this world. I get to go to Berlin and be with beautiful people like this and create things. And it hasn't all been unicorns and rainbows, Lord knows, but in hindsight, I'm speechless when I think what this career has given me. And the many various odd places I've been, being dropped down in the middle of a field somewhere and you don't even know where you are and they put you in other people's clothes and you yell at somebody or cry. It's just like, it's such a strange way to make a living. And I would say about every 7 years I think, oh, I should find something more noble. I should find something where I'm more of service. But I love it too much, and I think that storytelling is a service. I mean, I don't want to sound like a prat, but you know what I mean. It certainly was for me growing up. And don't let me go, Richard. I'm going to go. But there is a real honor and a real gratitude for me.
I'm going to go too. No, I'm not.
Be brave.
When I think about the biggest influences in my life, which came from childhood, they were usually to do with literature that I'd read or music that I'd heard or film or television that had impacted me. And I think these things shape you as a person. So the desire to become part of that community that is that storyteller was compelling. But also I find myself quite boring as a person. I bore myself to tears, and I'm more fascinated with other people, and the chance to explore somebody else's life, put on the shoes of somebody else, and as Michelle said, to be taken to so many extraordinary places. But bigger than that, to never really know what it is you're going to do next, and to be constantly in search of something totally different to what you've done before. It just keeps that childlike curiosity alive in yourself, which when you get to 45, if you can still have that, it's like a tonic for life. So I would never advise anyone to become an actor because it's full of kind of terrible, obstacles, but I wouldn't give it up for the world.
You used the phrase, there you go. I just want to follow up on that really fast because I think it's so interesting for actors and people in the arts in general. You use the phrase make a living, and before you become an actor and before you start making a living, the idea of being an actor is a dream, and it's a dream to be able to live in the arts and create all the time. When did it feel like you were making a living and suddenly it was a reality?
I'm still bartending on the weekends.
Come on, Epics, help her out here now.
I do remember that moment, actually. It was just after I'd left drama school, because I was in musical theatre before that, which was sort of a misstep, and I went back to drama school and retrained, and I came out and I went to a local repertory theatre in England called the Birmingham Repertory Theatre, and I was a kind of spear carrier in Hamlet, and I'd been through this rehearsal process, and we were in our first couple of performances, and I remember getting my pay slip and opening it up and thinking, oh my God, I get paid for this. I'd forgotten that I was going to be paid for it. And it was that moment of, oh, I can make a living out of this. It was such a shock and a revelation because I'd been so immersed in the enjoyment of it. And again, it's something else I try not to let go of.
I think we have time for one more question.
According to one of the teasers, it seems like the question of who is Thomas Shaw is left unresolved. I was just curious if it is answered at the end of season 1, or...
Is it, Michelle?
You're so in trouble. Oh, it's addressed.
It's a dress.
No, I don't want to get into another situation like I had on another show. It is revealed. It is revealed.
Yeah, I feel.
Correct?
Yeah, I feel like what happens is
Help,
that
epics.
we
No, kidding.
we tread a path, thinking we're going to find something, and open a door and find a lot more doors.
Okay. Thank you.
On that note, congratulations. The show is so cool, guys. It premieres this Sunday, October 16th on Epic's Berlin Station. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.